Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this chat, I'd like to talk about the sense of entitlement that so many migrants, illegal or otherwise, coming to the West, the sense of entitlement they have, and this view that when they arrive, they're going to have, it's just give me free stuff, give me more free stuff, then give me even more free stuff on top of that. So the sense of entitlement and the give me free stuff is not helping, and it's rather grating for the locals to have to observe that and to put up with it. But if they don't get these things in the quantities that they want, if they don't get a good job, a prestigious job, if they don't get lots of free stuff, then they're the first to howl and scream it's racism, and to be seriously put out by it. And they'll say what a terrible country, for example, Australia is, wicked, evil, white racists everywhere, and da-da-da. But then when you say, well, if it's that bad, and if it's let you down so badly, why don't you go back to, for example, India or somewhere in the subcontinent? Oh no, they'll say, and they'll just come back and say, look, India's racked with corruption, religious and political strife. You can't get anything done without bribing somebody. The public services don't function. It's overcrowded. It's dirty. It's full of low-life ferals, the untouchables in the Indian caste system, that sort of thing. And they say no, they don't want to go back. All right, then. Well, then how is it that the West is so terribly bad? Is it just because you're not getting all this free stuff you think you're entitled to? Where does this entitlement even come from? So let's have a little explore around that. And I'm thinking about a conversation I had with one lady from the subcontinent, and she was complaining that even though she was effectively gifted a job as soon as she arrived in the public service, it wasn't to her liking. She thinks she should get a more important job. She was in her immigration papers and getting her immigration application through. She was interviewed by an Indian of one of the lower castes, which she still hasn't recovered from. It, as far as she's concerned, it's an outrage that's beyond description. That such a lowly person in the caste would dare have the right to ask her questions, and that the approval of this person was required if she was going to come to Australia as an immigrant. So this has outraged her, and she still can't speak about it without getting annoyed. What sort of country? How uncultured would you have to be to allow such a low-life person to interview someone of her huge, high standing? So that's. But coming to the nub of it, the propaganda in India, certainly at the time this woman came over, was that Australia had this critical and incredible shortage of skills. Indeed, the whole Western world did. Suddenly one day, they woke up and realised, wow, we're so short on skills. So in this case, the Indians think not only are they coming to Australia to emigrate, but they're coming to save the country. These white people just don't have the skills. They can't do the job themselves. Us are culturally and morally superior beings, have to come to the West to rescue them, and it should be the West that's damn grateful we're coming to them, and they should show gratitude by giving us all this free stuff because we've come to rescue them. Now, if they thought about it for just a moment, that jobs are being created for them in the public service, the public service is expanding just so they can employ people, black, brown people. Similarly, businesses that rely heavily on government contracts are also under a lot of pressure to hire black, brown people and to create jobs for them, some of which are reasonably well paid and sound rather prestigious, executive director of procurement, those sorts of things. So if they thought about this for a minute, or this woman did, who's not unintelligent in her way, but if she thought about it for a moment and said, well, they're creating jobs for me, and or for the immigrants. So there clearly can't be a skills shortage that's needed, that requires immigrants. If they're creating jobs and creating positions or favouring immigrants over the locals, which they are in plenty of places, then there's obviously no shortage. Now, equally, if they're favouring Indians coming in or other black brown people, then it can't be a market-driven hiring, because if it was market-driven, the job would go to the best qualified. But if they've got quotas for Indian people, or again, black brown people generally, then it can't be based on skills. So therefore, it's not a skills issue at all. It's simply stuffing as many black brown people as they can into the white West. Now, the Indians don't sort of quite understand that. I'm sure most black brown people don't. They don't understand that it's white people who've sold out their own people. It's our white politicians, controlled by the globalists, have sold us out. Now, the penny hasn't dropped. I mean, they just think, well, no, your own people wouldn't sell you out. That's impossible. So it must be another reason as to why all these black, brown people are flooding into the country. It must be because Australians or white Western people just can't do the job. They're just incapable of doing the job. Or there is a genuine shortage of skills for the economy that's growing. Now, none of these things are real, of course. There's no shortage of skills, and there's no shortage of local people in Australia or anywhere else in the West. No shortage of people to do the job. But this is the mindset they arrive with, that they're rescuers in effect, and the locals should be damn grateful that they've arrived to do this rescuing. And now that's absurd, of course, if they were to think about it, but they haven't, and they arrive with this strange view. They also see themselves as culturally and morally superior generally. So they perceive that they should be elevated to a high honoured status, and if they're not, then it must be because there's some form of dysfunction somewhere, that they're not being elevated to the upper end of the caste system, which of course they had in India before they came to the West. So they feel themselves entitled to maintain that level of social status, and when they don't get it, or don't feel that they're receiving that sort of honour and respect, then they feel hard done by. So I tried to engage this person in conversation. So they say that white people are racist to them. Okay, well, how many white friends do you have? Well, none. Well, you live in a suburb of Sydney, in this case, that's been completely taken over by Indians. So if you wanted to have white friends and live amongst this white culture, why wouldn't you live in a suburb where there's majority white people? Oh, well, I prefer having Indians around. They understand me, I understand them, I feel more comfortable, we share the same values. Well, okay, fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But it means you're not integrating or assimilating. And isn't it a bit rich to say that the white people are the racists when you won't have anything to do with them? Oh, it's not the same, not the same. It's racist when they do it, but it's not racist when I do it. Well, hey, that's not how it works. So basically, they arrive with this sense of entitlement, and again, the propaganda says they're coming as rescuers, and if they don't get some good job, then it's down to racism, or down to some other form of dysfunction here in what they see as the local economy. But we need to understand the amount of money that's being thrown at bringing black, brown people out to Australia or the West generally. All these jobs that aren't needed, that are created in the public service. All these preferential hiring that's given to companies that rely heavily on government contracts, that sort of thing. So it's making the economy less efficient, and it means more taxpayer dollars are being spent than need to on all these bullshit jobs that are created just to give these people employment. And again, these people are not needed for the local economy. Now, coming to the skills area, and I sit down in meetings with some of these people, and if they've got finely tuned skills, then I don't see it. They must be just well concealed, perhaps, or maybe I'm just too dumb and stupid to see it or notice it. But as far as I'm concerned, they're less qualified than certainly most of the white people that I come across, at least in those sort of roles. And off the top of my head, I can't think of one Indian who I'd see as better qualified than the white people who've been in those roles. But maybe there are some and I've just forgotten about it. So we're looking at people who are not well qualified and who haven't got any relevant expertise. They've come from some basket case bullshit firm in India that's all cronyism and all that sort of stuff. And they've got a degree that they probably had to bribe somebody to get, because everything in India is bribery. You can't look sideways without having to bribe somebody. So we're looking at underqualified people who've got these had to bribe somebody degrees, who are coming here. And they're not just them. Again, I'm singling that because that was the person I was having the conversation with. So there are others there. But this illustrates the view and the sense of entitlement. Why are you entitled to a job here that when you're not even needed? You're not needed as a migrant, or your skills aren't needed. The economy doesn't need it. Why do you think you're entitled to something? Why do you think you're entitled to free stuff? Why do you think that you should be respected above and beyond any other citizen, and so on? And they really got no answer for this. They're bringing just too much baggage from the old country with them, and they're just expecting things that if it was a merit-based hiring situation, they wouldn't do so well. But if we look at if the skills, assuming the skills are needed from these people, I don't believe they are, but if they had to compete on the open market, with their thick accents, their qualifications that are very sus, they've probably had to bribe somebody to get, and they probably had to bribe immigration officials in the embassies to get here. So why they feel entitled is quite beyond me. But if they get here and they've got to compete in the open market, many of them would stay unemployed for a very long time and probably would go back to India, where they've maybe got family and connections that they can bribe their way into some form of employment. But this is the situation here. So we don't get the best quality people coming to the West. Far from it. Even the ones that purport to be quite well qualified are not. And as long as there's this pretend nonsense that there's some sort of skill shortage that has to be filled and can only be filled by black and brown people, then I can't see we're going to really move forward. If we're getting the very best people coming to the West, and when I say the very best, ones who are bringing clearly established skills that are needed in the economy, then they'll get work quickly, and I've got no problem with that. I mean, if there are people there, that's fine with me. It doesn't matter where they come from. I'm all good with that. But if we're bringing people out just because they're black, brown, even though they've got no qualifications or none that are needed or useful, or qualifications are even genuine, then I question the need at any level for it. It's just costing us more. We're getting less efficient businesses, less efficient economy, and we're all being dragged down by this crazy nonsense. That's my take on this. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.